Listener discretion is advised.
You are listening to Wine and Crime, the podcast where three friends chug wine, chat true crime, and unleash their worst Minnesotan accents. We've
Everything's
had
fine.
quite the day.
We're
Quite the
totally
week.
fine. Yeah.
It's Monday.
Oh
Quite the
my
week.
God. It's Monday?
Yep.
I'm done. I'm fucking done. I'm done.
It's not worth it anymore.
Yeah.
Everything's dust.
I'm still Kenyan.
I am still Lucy.
I'm terminally Amanda.
Ooh, yeah, we're okay. I poured myself a very strong bourbon to just get through it. And I
am just waiting.
I am really looking forward to this topic. I was so excited for this episode.
It's
Me
good.
too.
So we have our very special fan picker, Gary White, to thank.
Quite what?
For this week's topic, which is warring families.
People murder each other.
A lot.
Like a bunch. Like take out entire families.
Like
generations.
Yeah.
Yes.
Family's important. And I guess I would kill for some of my family members, but context is key.
Not most, honestly. You're on
My
your
people
own.
murdered literally over sheep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It depends on what the issue is.
So
Yeah.
I don't have allegiance. I don't feel allegiance to that many people.
Right.
I don't have the fortitude for revenge of that magnitude.
Or just
No.
I'm
the
too
follow
lazy.
through.
I'm just going to roast you on the internet.
I'll
Right.
just rage text the two of you.
Yeah, right. On
Yes.
that person's behalf or about that person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Generally, as far as I'll go. Anyway.
So we really need to get to the wine pairing.
Yes, we do,
Yeah, we
or
do.
I am going to lose it.
Yep. Lots of technical difficulties. So,
Yeah.
Amanda, what is our wine crime pairing for warring families?
Today, we are drinking Winc's Brethren of the Road 2019 Riesling.
Nice.
So something nice and easy drinking that I can put away an entire bottle of.
I think we've done Brethren of the Road before, but a different vintage. Am I right?
We've done, yes, they have an amazing Grenache and they have an amazing Riesling, and we've done both, but we've never tasted the 2019. So I'm very
Nice.
excited.
Nice.
So we've talked about this a lot before. Riesling is often thought of as a sweet wine, but this is not made that way. There are exciting dry versions of the grape that are popping up from a variety of winemaking regions, including this one from Monterey, California. Again, so great to also be supporting California winemakers because it's just been like a perpetual monstrosity wildfire season for the last 2 years.
Hellscape.
More relentless than the residents of California are typically used to.
Right, which
So-
is already bad enough.
Yeah, so supporting California wines is always, a great way to just infuse a little bit more money back into that economic infrastructure. So without the sugar to soften the fruit, this wine shows racy acid and bright minerality, all backed up with classic notes of white fruit and flowers. So it's fermented in stainless steel, which means it's going to have no flavor
From the barrel.
influence, from the aging process, from that fermentation process, with only native yeast, and it's a zesty, aromatic white that is supremely food friendly. So I will be starving by the end of this episode, and I can't wait to eat. And this bottle is right in the sweet spot at 12.5% ABV, so drinking an entire bottle of it won't totally destroy you.
Please
but if you want to
destroy
get
me.
destroyed, maybe get your gin ready.
Fuck me up.
Get a backup.
Riesling.
Fuck
Get
me
a backup beverage. It also has a nice dry finish and a lovely balance of minerality, white flowers, and white peach. So shall we pop?
Perfect for Gary White.
Gary White.
Yes.
Let's fucking pop this open so that this tragedy can finally end.
Or
Tragedy
begin.
that is our collective lives.
We're fine.
Ready?
We're
Oh, good. Now there are fireworks outside.
It's fine. People
If anyone
just deal with
complains
the
about
sound.
the sound.
This has been the day from hell. Don't email us. Here we go. Ready for this fucking pop?
Yes.
Up.
Nice pop.
Nice pop. Dump it in a glass and shove it down my face.
Shut up. Shut the fuck up.
Shove it down my Riesling hole.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Jesus. It's about fucking time.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah. All right. Whew.
I already
Wow.
feel better.
That'll do the trick. That'll do it.
God is good.
We're on the right path.
What is our background and maybe psych for warring families?
Do you even care?
I was super excited about this episode.
Do you even care?
I do.
I know you
I
do.
care so much.
We
know.
care too much. That's the problem.
Okay, well, I covered quite a bit regarding generational family violence in episode 173, which was Murderous Family Trees. So today I'll be discussing just a few random cases of fighting between families because if you're actually interested in the background and psych, go back to 173. I'd be covering the same shit.
Well, it's different. I mean, those are different things. Like fighting, having generations of serial killers in your family is different than like you wronged my cousin and I'm gonna
Right.
Yeah, I know, but
avenge
like,
him.
okay,
Kind of.
whatever. It didn't interest me, so I didn't research it.
Oh my God.
Cool.
I'm doing a few shallow dives that the two of you aren't covering.
Oh, fun.
So
Nice.
Switch it up.
These
Keep
are-
us on our toes.
yeah, these are from a Mental Floss article that I will be reading verbatim because I fucking cannot deal. I'm hanging on by a thread, so here we go.
Lucy has not had internet for
Almost
3
a month.
weeks.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, who's
Yeah.
counting?
Yeah.
I used
So
a
we're-
Redbox for the first time in a decade yesterday.
Great.
I was shocked they still exist. Same with DVD players on that note, but anyway. So let's begin with perhaps the most famous modern American case of warring families, the Hatfields and the McCoys.
Yep.
I definitely thought this was like a sitcom from like the 70s.
If it sounds like that. I'm sure they did a movie about this in the 70s and then
Oh,
they
yeah.
remade it for that actually very good show on whatever it was, Showtime or whatever the fuck it was on.
I don't know.
Sure.
Whatever.
HBO. Did neither of you watch that? It was a period piece, so I watched it, obviously.
Classic.
Gross.
Amazing.
As Corey said when I said I like period films, he just went, ugh. Okay. While the most famous family feud, which is between the McCoys of Kentucky and the Hatfields of West Virginia, dates back to 1865, the feud's most deadly era began, like so many others at the time, on Election Day in 1882. A lot of these feuds begin on Election Day.
That
I
is
mean,
too real.
holds up. Also, did you see that amazing news article about how there is an asteroid careening toward Earth that's supposed to hit our atmosphere on the eve of Election Day?
There's always an
And it's like the
asteroid
size of a
careening towards
refrigerator.
Earth.
Yeah,
Well,
but
yeah.
this time the chances of it hitting Earth are like 0.41%,
Which is way higher than normal.
Huge.
Yeah.
That's way higher than winning the lottery.
I
It
hope
will
it
burn
lands.
up in the atmosphere regardless, but
I hope it lands on my roof.
I'm ready. I'm gonna be,
Derecho 2.0.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stand outside like those folks in Independence Day that
Independence
are
Day
welcoming the aliens
on the roof.
Yeah.
Except your sign just says "fuck me up, Riesling."
Yep. 100%.
Oh, 12.5%. All right.
Okay.
So most men were given the day off from work so they could visit the polls. What a concept.
Right?
Oh, it's great
Who
to know that they
knew?
were more advanced in 1882 in some ways, not
Yeah.
always.
Did say the men were given the day.
The
'cause
men.
The women couldn't vote, of course. Which meant they also spent a lot of time in the local saloon after casting their votes. A combination of whiskey and politics inevitably resulted in fights. On this day, 3 McCoy men killed Ellison Hatfield, stabbing him 26 times before finishing him off with a bullet to the chest.
Well, obviously that West Virginia man deserved it.
Yes.
Go Kentucky.
Says the Kentucky woman.
Is there
I'm
a
sad this will be my
rivalry?
first election, my first
don't know.
presidential election where I don't get to go sit at Bev's wine bar and watch the results come in and drink wine and eat way too much cheese and then cry or celebrate with other people.
Well, you can do that at home with Bill.
I will.
That sounds really nice.
It's my
actually.
election, my presidential election tradition.
Ugh. I still have icky feelings from
PTSD
3.5 years ago.
2016 election night. Hard saying.
Because
Yeah.
of the time difference in 2016, I went to bed fully confident, even smug, thinking that Hillary was obviously going to win. It was no question. And then I woke up to the news and it was the middle
To a
of the night for all
dystopian
of
nightmare.
you.
Yeah.
And
I
just-
was awake. I was sobbing.
None of us were sleeping.
Right.
No one was sleeping.
And just the shock of that hitting you at like 7 a.m. I
Yep.
can't. Anyway. Next.
Yeah. We had to get up and go to work.
Ugh.
Okay. So the next day, as 3 young men were escorted to Pikeville, Kentucky for arraignment, the Hatfield clan intercepted them, tied them up, and shot them in cold blood.
Ew.
20 arrest warrants were issued for Hatfields, but no law enforcement bothered to serve them. Oddly, the McCoys didn't seek immediate revenge, as it was understood that, in terms of social justice, the 3 boys got what they deserved. Still, animosity ran high, and minor skirmishes occurred in the ensuing years, showing that the feud was quiet but not dead.
Yeah.
That's interesting, though, that initially they were like,
Chill with it.
touche,
Touche.
but fair enough.
Yeah.
They fucked up.
Okay.
However, when business investors balked at putting money into a community that had a reputation for vendetta violence, the government decided it was time to step in. The government just made it 100 times worse.
This is just the same story that repeats itself, minus necessarily it being a family feud over and fucking over again about like problem communities.
Uh-huh. Yep. The state of Kentucky began serving the 20 outstanding Hatfield warrants, arresting 2 men within a matter of weeks. Like, why did it take weeks to arrest 2 people? I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's pretty rural and woodsy and mountainous in parts. I could see it being hard to track someone down if they don't want to be found.
It requires like wagon train
Yeah.
to get there.
Yeah, but as far as they knew, like,
well,
they
as soon
weren't-
as the first one is served, the rest can just scatter.
I guess. So in order to stop the arrests, a small faction of the Hatfields decided to kill the head of the opposing family, old Raynell McCoy.
Renal?
Not Randall?
Ranel, R-A-N-E-L.
Renal.
I'm going to go with Randall.
Let's go with anal.
Renal McCoy, Colin Powell.
Anal McCoy, so that he couldn't testify in court against them. So early on the morning of January 1st, 1888, 9 members of the Hatfields set fire to Anal McCoy's cabin. Okay, but this guy really is an anus. Listen to this. As he and his family fled the flames, shots rang out, killing 2 adult McCoy children. When Mrs. McCoy ran to check on them, she was severely beaten but survived. The Hatfields' target, Anal, escaped harm entirely by hiding in a pig pen.
So his
Son of
wife
a
and kids
bitch.
got fucked up and he was fine.
He hid in the
pig
mud.
pen. The
That's not
attack
good.
was The attack was condemned by most members of the Hatfield clan, and although there were 2 more deaths and the occasional scuffles for years to come, the majority of the Feud fighters had decided that enough was enough.
The Foo Fighters.
The majority of the Foo Fighters.
In all, around a dozen people died during the feud. However, the 2 families eventually put aside their differences and now see their shared family history with a sense of humor.
I didn't realize it was only a dozen people.
Yeah, they
Only.
But
bitch about it a lot.
make it a thing much?
Yeah, Siri, get over it. Only 12 people died.
For example, in 1979, both clans made a week-long appearance on the nightly game show Family Feud, where both sides took shots at each other with pistols loaded with blanks. In this feud, the McCoys were declared the winners 3 games out of 5. So, like, super cash, lighthearted humor.
That is the most in poor taste shit I have ever fucking heard.
Right? It's
Yeah,
so tacky.
I love it. Also, petition to officially change this title, even though we already did the top of the episode, to Family Feud Crimes.
Then I want a new case so that I can just have, I don't know, some sort of mention of Steve Harvey's mustache.
Oh, I thought that was a caterpillar.
She thick.
She thick. In the year 2000, the clans shared the first of what has become an annual joint family reunion, now called the Hatfield and the McCoy Reunion Festival, in a weekend full of events that take place in both Kentucky and West Virginia. So, like, I guess they're over it now.
I'm shook.
They're into it. They're famous from it.
I'm fully shook by this.
In grad school, I met someone, a friend of mine actually, was the descendant of a person that put my ancestor to death in the Salem witch trials. She was like, "I'm sorry." And I was like, "No hard feelings."
You're like, it's fine. It's the most interesting thing about my family tree. It's fine. Worth
all
it.
good.
Okay, so moving on to the Slicker War of the Ozarks. The feud between the Turks and the Joneses, both of Benton County, Missouri, and the Ozark. Ray just spit on me somehow. That was gross.
We
I
wouldn't
cats
know
could spit.
because your background image blocks out everything in your house.
It's fine. Don't worry about it. In the Ozark Mountain region also began on fucking election day in 1840 when Andy Jones and Jim Turk got into a kerfuffle that was soon joined by other members of their clans. Later, a bounty hunter came into the region looking for the relative of the Joneses named James Morton.
Matron Mama Morton.
Of the Salt Fortune. Just kidding. I have no idea. The county sheriff wasn't willing to help, but the Turks saw an opportunity to get back at their rivals, so they nabbed Morton and turned him over. Because of their actions, Patriarch Hiram Turk, is it Hiram or Hiram?
I think it's Hiram.
I like Hiram.
Hiram Turk was arrested for kidnapping, but the charges were later dropped. Feeling they'd been wronged, the Jones family got their revenge when Andy Jones allegedly shot and killed Hiram on July 17th, 1841. Jones went to trial, but he was acquitted. Feeling the justice system had failed them, the Turks publicly announced their intention to form a vigilante group to rid the area of counterfeiters, robbers, and murderers. Under the guise of public welfare, they rounded up people from the community and went after these unwanted elements, which naturally included their enemies, the Joneses and their allies. What is this accent?
I don't know, but
I
it's
love
working.
it. I am so comforted by it.
Yeah, it's really working.
Okay, I'll keep up. The group soon earned the nickname Slickers based on their usual mode of punishment called slicking that involved tying a person to a tree and whipping them with a hickory switch.
Jesus fucking Christ.
In retaliation, the Jones started the anti-Slickers, who
Brilliant.
I know.
What a name.
They need to rebrand. The no-nos. The don't do that's.
But also like Antifa, but still.
Right. I support them, but their naming is terrible.
Yeah. Who guarded their allies and occasionally went after slickers as well. The battle raged until the slickers mistakenly went after an innocent farmer and nearly killed him, after which the Missouri government charged 38 of the slickers with the crime. The arrests diminished the slicker numbers significantly and led to the feud dissolving over the next few years.
I like how this accent turned the word crime into 4 syllables.
Yeah.
Crime.
Wine and crime.
That was just a little sob that came out while I was talking. I can't help it. Unfortunately, the slickers' form of justice caught on with the people of Missouri as more slicker groups sprang up that had nothing to do with the Turk-Jones feud.
Nothing to do.
Nothing. Much like the Turks' slickers, these groups were easily influenced by leaders with less than honest intentions, so many innocent people were accused, beaten, and even killed for crimes they did not commit. Today, slickers can be recognized by their stupid fucking red hats, star-spangled swim trunks, and spittle collecting in the corners of their maskless mouths.
Yup.
That was my own editorializing. That was not part of this Mental Floss article. It's the only part that's not verbatim.
Isn't it funny how, like, the Venn diagram of people who say that black folks who are shot by police should have complied with the law, and people who don't want to wear masks because it infringes on my freedoms is like just a circle. It's not a Venn diagram. It's a circle.
And who also like trespass on public parks that are closed.
Yeah. Fucking
Bring
COVID
weapons
Karens.
into state capitol buildings.
Yep.
Definitely had an encounter the other day with some folks.
What?
We don't have time to get into it, but definitely had a very interesting encounter with folks who were like paranoid that the Not Fucking Around coalition, like the coalition of people of color who have the right to bear arms and protest with weapons.
Yeah, they like
the freedom fighters
all up
here in
into
Minnesota.
the KKK compound a couple weeks ago.
They are fucking
And they've been in
fearless.
Louisville and whatever, and just had some folks who were like, I just can't believe it, and us rednecks are gonna put a stop to that, and that's what the Second Amendment is for. And I was like,
fuck you. When we protested,
the Second Amendment is for you to bring your guns to stop other people having guns.
And
not other
fuck
people,
that. It's
black
such a,
people.
Yeah, it's a double standard
Right.
because when we protested against Bob Kroll in Hugo, all those white folks were waiting for us with their guns out, waving their guns at us, talking about how they have their Second Amendment rights, and we just didn't even respond to them. But the second the scary, scary black folks have their open carry permits and take their weapons out and do the exact same fucking shit that these fucking rednecks are doing, all bets are off.
I don't think anyone should protest with firearms or weapons of any kind. I feel like protesting should just not involve deadly weapons.
Emotions
tell that
are
to the
high.
cops.
But hey, what can you do?
All right. I'm sad enough as it is, so I'm going to move on
Ugh.
so that I can keep chugging my wine. Okay. Do you want me to keep with this accent?
Yes. Always.
This one is in Texas, so we're good. And finally, the Lee-Peacock feud. In August 1861, not election day, I should note, Bob Lee joined the 9th Texas Cavalry of the Confederate Army, leaving behind his family in Northeast Texas. While he was away, the Union League, a civil group created to promote loyalty to the Union and to protect black people and Union sympathizers, set up a local chapter headed by Lee-Peacock.
What a name.
I know. I'm pretty sure he killed the person in the library with the candlestick.
With a rope.
After the war, Lee returned home to find the League using their political weight to force the area to adopt what the community saw as unfair Reconstruction initiatives.
Letting people of color vote and hold elected office. So
And
unfair.
not be slaves anymore.
Right.
Many of Lee's neighbors looked to him, a former Confederate, as the leader in the push back against this new form of Northern oppression. So,
Oh my God.
reverse racism. To quash his new rival, Peacock rounded up his men and arrested Lee on trumped-up charges of war crimes, knowing he would be...
Like winning.
I don't know.
Literally nothing ever changes.
Yeah.
No. Knowing he would be exonerated in court, Lee and his brother, who acted as a chaperone, went peacefully. But instead of taking Lee to the authorities, Peacock's men took the brothers into the wilderness and robbed them. They also forced both Lee brothers to sign a $2,000 promissory note. Promissory or promissory?
Promissory.
Sorry.
Promissory note before setting them free. Alive but angry, Lee and his brother sued
me.
the
Alive but angry.
but angry.
Hashtag alive but angry.
Holy shit, I have never felt so seen. Alive but angry.
My surge capacity is maxed out.
My cup is full.
I'm crying
Not again.
again. Alive, but it spoke to me. It just spoke to me.
Alive
but angry.
Specifically in that accent, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Alive but angry, Lee and his brother sued the leaders of the Union League and
They
won.
sued.
But instead of settling the matter, in the 1867 judgment only escalated the bitterness between the two sides.
You don't say.
When a relative of Peacock's later shot and wounded Lee, the first blood had been spilled in what would become a small-scale civil war in Texas.
Oh, no.
I feel like a very small scale, but I could be wrong.
I think this is kind of
Am I
insane.
wrong?
I think we'll get to it. I wrote these notes like a week ago, so. In the summer of 1868, after a year of ambushes and shootouts that resulted in the death of about 50 men.
So way more than the Hatfields and McCoys.
Way more.
Yeah, and have you ever heard of this feud? No.
No.
Peacock requested help from the federal government.
Oh,
Peacock's
now he wants help. I can't remember who's the good one and who's the bad one in this.
Peacock's the good one, Lee's
Okay.
the bad one.
All right. Okay.
Classic Northern liberal requesting a handout from the government.
Yeah. So Peacock's political allies arranged for a $1,000 reward to be posted for Bob Lee, dead or alive.
He's
but angry.
wanted, dead or alive.
However, Lee had friends and family who helped him move safely about the countryside, allowing him to fight for another year before the 4th United States Cavalry was sent in to settle the feud.
You sound like Peggy Hill, and it is giving me
Yeah.
so much life.
I
real
love
good.
Peggy Hill.
That boy ain't right. Well, that's
boy
Hank Hill, but still.
With the pressure on, Lee decided to run from Mexico, but was shot and killed en route by the military. Lee's plan was betrayed by a former supporter, Henry Boren. Sounds pretty boring. Who met his maker the next day at the hands of his own nephew, who saw his uncle as a traitor.
Oh, what drama.
Even though Lee was dead, the battle wasn't over. His men scattered, but they continued to come back into the area for years to take shots at Peacock and his men. In fact, it was men. In fact, it was June 1871 before Lee sympathizers killed Peacock, finally ending the feud once and for all. So moral of the stories, chill the fuck out and stay away from bars on election day, which shouldn't be much of a problem this year.
Well, this year I will, but normally I will not stay away.
Refuse.
I will say it's like my safe little liberal bubble at Bev's because it's like it's basically a private event where the owner and bartender are the only ones who work and they just invite their friends to come in and we just eat and drink and watch the election results. I mean, it's kind of nice because you're in like a safe space to be fucking gutted.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Without there being a kerfuffle.
I fled the bar in tears in 2016 around 11 p.m. Everything was all celebrating, and then it crumbled, and my friend who didn't vote out of protest, I was so fucking mad. He was trying to console me, and I was like,
No.
get the fuck out of my presence.
Yeah, your opinion is no good here. You didn't even participate in the process.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely rigged, but we still have to fucking vote and then keep fighting before, during, and after the vote.
Make sure
It's
you're
part
registered.
of the fight.
Make sure you're registered. Request that absentee ballot. Encourage
now.
everyone you fucking
Drop
know.
it off in person.
Drop it off in person.
Just
If he gets
everything.
reelected, it's going to be 10 times worse. 50 times worse.
I can't even mentally go there.
No, not today anyway.
Can't go there. Are we ready for my case?
Yes!
Probably
No.
not.
Now that I'm back with more bourbon and more lipstick.
Your lip color is really cute. I'm not wearing, and I'm yawning, I'm not wearing a stitch of makeup, and I've just done this situation with my hair. And listeners at home, if you want to see this damage, you gotta get on Patreon.
Ray, stop. Oh my
All right.
God. I was trying to raise the blinds because Ray was fucking with them, but I'm in a swivel chair, so it was kind of hard.
Right.
And I have no core, so it was exceptionally difficult.
My core is gelatin.
I have a core, it's just cheese.
The real McCore!
Okay. So, moving on. Much like my inexplicable fascination with Russia, despite
There's a
never
fly in
having
here! Sorry.
visited.
I'm listening, I swear. Russia.
I've also been completely obsessed with Albania for a long time, ever since I first read the Albanian author Ismail Kadare, who's so fucking good and I highly recommend.
What the fuck? Who are you? What's going on?
I love Albania. Never been. Really interested.
Okay.
So, in a number of Kadare's books, he writes about a very particular Albanian phenomenon, blood feuds.
Of course you love this.
I have a blood feud once a month.
So, we will get to it, but a little bit of background first. Albania is an ancient society located in the Western Balkans. It shares borders with beautiful Kosovo, Montenegro, North Macedonia, and Greece. Because of its location, this land has been fought over and ruled by various empires, including the Ottoman Empire from the 15th through the late 19th centuries. It was briefly independent for a while, then occupied by the Nazis, and then finally, after World War II, it was brought under the thumb of the Soviet Empire and then ruled by a communist dictator whose name I'm probably going to butcher, Enver Hoxha, and he ruled for 41 years. So they had a really rough go of it for a soup's long time.
Yeah. Fair.
Yeah. That's the one thing I do know about Albania.
Yeah. During this period, Albania was also culturally and financially cut off from the rest of Europe and like super isolated, and that was part of what the communist regime want. Like they did that on purpose, basically, to like stay in power.
It makes them vulnerable.
So Hoxha was also known as Albania's supreme comrade.
Oh, Lord.
Soul force, or great teacher. So like some serious like Kim Jong-Il
Yeah,
vibes.
if you have to give yourself such like over the top, I'm amazing names.
You probably suck.
If you have to get
Yeah.
a tattoo on your arm that says Veritas, you probably lie a lot.
Yeah. If you talk about how big your dick is, it's tiny.
Also, this is a lovely premonition for the drunk dive that we will be recording after this because
Oh, good.
she's about North Korea.
Oh, jeez.
Look at that. What are the chances?
Yeah. So if you're not a Patreon supporter now, do it because then you'll get to listen to our delightful drunk dives in which we
Something
get
coming.
super fucking drunk, talk about something random.
We're on our way already. So Hoxha was evil. He brutally suppressed the populace. His regime probably killed and imprisoned around 100,000 dissidents over 4 decades.
Wow.
Not great. Hoxha's control extended into every facet of people's lives. He even banned all expressions of religion. So he made Albania, which was predominantly Muslim at the time. It had been Christian. There was still a small Christian population. Then it was under Ottoman rule for a long time, Muslim. He made it the world's first explicitly atheist state.
That's
so he
fucked
said, now everyone's an atheist.
No. First of all, honey, that's not how that works at all.
I mean,
Second of all, as an atheist, freedom of religion is still important.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't have to agree with your viewpoint to give you the access and the right to express those views.
Right. So he shut down churches, mosques, everything, like, shut it all down.
That's
really
horrible.
fucked up.
For a lot of people, that's their only community, is their religious community. That's so fucking isolating and awful to do to a population.
Despite being ruled by various highly oppressive regimes and colonizers for literal centuries, Albania still somehow managed to retain a really strong and unique culture. So, like, they're constantly being invaded and ruled over, but they just really keep their, like, Albanianness very strong. And a big part of that is something called the Canon.
Okay.
The Canon is a set of ancient laws and customs passed down at first orally over the centuries and then eventually was codified by the nobleman, again, another name that I am just going to totally nail, Leki Dugajani III.
Okay.
I mean, it's always a good idea to start out orally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Really loosen her up.
Right. Before you codify.
Right.
Makes things easier down the road.
Before you cockify.
Yeah.
So this guy was known as the Angel Prince. He fought the Dragon Prince. I fucking love Albania. They're so crazy. This was in the 1400s. Don't have
Is
time
this Game of Thrones or?
Basically, yes. Everything in Game of Thrones is based off of Albania. At its
Also,
heart.
Kenyon wouldn't know because she hasn't seen Game of Thrones.
I can guess.
So that's a strong way in.
You have my HBO login. There's no excuse.
And you are
I
basically
only watch Acorn TV.
a slightly less evil Cersei Lannister, so you need to watch it.
You're lucky you don't have a brother because you're super Cersei.
Yeah, thank God you're an only child. Or your marriage would not be legal.
I hope my kid isn't like her kid. Anyway. So, eventual kid. I'm not pregnant. I'm drinking bourbon.
She had a
That
few.
didn't stop
At
my
least one of them was
grandmother.
good. The girl was good.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know she had another one. Okay. So, can't get into everything in the canon because it's basically a society's entire legal and moral code.
Yeah.
But for the purposes of this episode, a few things stand out. Surprise! It's super fucking patriarchal.
Well, what isn't?
Yeah. Also, it's from...
Yeah, you could see that coming
Ancient
from 60
Albania.
Yeah, exactly.
Ancient anything. Ancient fill in the blank.
Yeah.
Gonna be patriarchal.
Not good. It was
Nah.
a rough time. And consider that
Not
it wasn't
cute.
even written down into the 1400s.
It was just yelled at you for centuries.
Orally.
Then sung about.
Hey,
then finally written down.
Smile more
Yeah.
for centuries.
And then finally written down probably by women.
Yeah.
Probably.
So women were considered chattel. They had basically no rights. They were not allowed to inherit or own property or
The good
vote.
old days.
Yeah.
Make
Simpler
make
times.
Albania great again.
Great again. Fuck.
So
No.
there were also other weird restrictions. So women weren't permitted to smoke or wear a watch.
Well, I don't like wearing watches.
You're going to say wear a wire.
That too, probably. So basically, yeah, their only worth is derived from being like property of male guardians. So like
Making
anything,
babies.
yeah, anything
cooking
protecting
dinner.
women was really just protecting men's property of women. I also found a quote that I couldn't find again, but it was something like, women are like sacks made to endure their husband's whims, or like made to carry all burdens.
I mean, to be fair, that's true. We
Yeah.
were like built to put up
Be
with
sacks.
your bullshit
I mean,
for
our
all
womb
of fucking
is-
eternity.
What is a womb if not a sack?
A baby sack.
You're right. But
I
anyway,
can hold a lot of
Where's
bullshit
the
in the
lie?
sack.
I've held a lot, and now my cup runneth over, and I'm done.
Yeah. This sack is full.
Yeah,
No vacancy up in this sack.
the sack is closed.
Get your own sack.
It's your own fucking sack.
You sad sack. Okay. So, at the start of World War II, 90% of Albanian women were illiterate.
Wow.
That's not good.
And that's not long ago.
That's a big
So,
percentage. Oh my
Not
God,
good.
that's in like the late 30s?
Yeah.
Christ.
That was within my grandmother's lifetime.
But like what wasn't?
That's
And
fair.
my grandmother's lifetime,
Yeah.
more unremarkably.
Right.
But under communism, women had to be workers. They had to bring them into the workforce. So the communist regime attempted to modernize and grant women access to education and some rights, not reproductive rights.
No,
obviously.
the rights that allowed them to be better, like
Sacks.
cogs in the wheel.
You're still going to be a sack.
Better, but you're going to be a more efficient and educated sack.
Definitely a sack, but you also now have to work.
Yeah.
Don't get me
great.
wrong. You're still a sack.
Don't get it twisted.
Do not twist that sack.
So, as part of this same modernization push, Hoxha tried to outlaw the canon writ large, but the tradition stubbornly persisted.
I mean, good fucking luck. That's like if Trump was
Right.
like, the Bible is done.
Right, yeah, right.
Like,
But lest
Okay.
we forget, he could shoot someone in the middle of Fifth Avenue and get away with it. So
well,
God
and
only
also,
knows.
lest we forget, many Republicans say he was appointed by God to the presidency.
Yes.
Which makes me worry that this asteroid really is going to end it all because
Which I'm kind of fine with at this
I'm
point.
fine
We
with
need
it.
to just start over.
I'm fine with
willing to sacrifice my own life. We can't fix it. It's got to be destroyed
we'll
and
just
rebuilt.
start over from bacteria.
It's done. It's like trying to just paint. It's like trying to fix that French manicure with whiteout. It's
Yeah.
never gonna be right.
Right. It's true.
It's not.
It's
You gotta
just
just-
like that.
You gotta
It
get
is
rid of it and
exactly
start
like-
from scratch.
Slapping lipstick on a pig.
Yes.
Hey.
Oh my God.
Are you saying hey because you just put on lipstick? You're
You're
not,
not a
you're
pig.
human woman. You're not
And your
a pig.
lipstick is fucking flawless.
It is really cute.
Okay. So,
Also, I would take a pig in lipstick at this point.
My Vaseline is pretty flawless too.
pigs are very intelligent. So, The Canon originated in mainly the Albanian highlands, and that area is like, it's mountainous, it's particularly isolated, limited infrastructure, limited resources. So like even today, there's a quote, the higher you go up in the mountains, the further back into the past you travel, which makes sense.
Cool,
The
but also
further
scary.
you go into Bullitt County, Kentucky, the further in the past you travel. So,
Ramsey County, Minnesota.
so the most infamous part of the canon is something called, God help us, Giacomaria,
Okay.
or blood feuds.
Giacomaria, the corpse cart.
I'm going to go. I think you nailed it.
Yeah, blood feuds. So these are passed down through families for generations. They can be started over anything. They can be started over a murder, obviously, or a property dispute.
That was common, yeah.
A sack.
Yeah, anything over the honor of a sack.
AKA woman.
Yeah, like a marriage gone wrong, and then
Sure.
yeah, a returned sack without receipt.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Can't recycle most sacks. Just
Right.
saying.
So it can be started over anything, and they are just passed down for generations, but not in the same way as the Hatfields and the McCoys. It's not like a choice. It's dictated.
It's like an obligation, like a social obligation.
Yes.
We're not going to see any of these Albanian families on Steve Harvey's Family Feud anytime soon.
No, never.
Wouldn't that be fun if we did, though?
No,
Albanian
I don't think
edition?
so.
Family Feud.
Be
I
a
would.
lot bloodier than Steve Harvey is used to on that show.
Can you imagine his little face?
Giacomaria feud.
On this week's Giacomaria edition.
Holy shit. I don't want to see that show.
I do.
Okay, so take, for example, the case of one, at the time the article was written, soon to be 16-year-old in Skjoder. I can't pronounce anything in Albanian, which is a town in northwest Albania. In 2001, when the boy was just 5 years old, his father got embroiled in a conflict with some neighbors. It was some dispute about encroaching on one or the other's land. And
Okay.
literally no one seems totally clear on the details now.
Sure.
Like, that's how important the details
It
were.
doesn't matter. We just
Yeah.
hate them.
Yeah, I don't
Yep.
remember why I'm mad at you, but I'm mad. Mm-hmm. Insults were exchanged, and finally the boy's father killed two neighbors, and they were a pair of brothers. So then blood was shed.
Yeah.
He then fled, but was eventually 2 years later apprehended, tried for murder in the actual courts, and sent to prison,
Sure.
which is like a tragic story, but like end of story, except not in fucking Albania.
Right.
So the justice of the state had its, this is a quote, the justice of the state had its say, but not private justice. For the past 10 years, the family of the two murdered brothers had been demanding vengeance.
Oh, that's a scary demand.
So this guy, the killer's son, was, again, 5 years old when all this shit went down.
Yikes. But he's now just inherited this feud from his family.
Yep. So now he's 15, but he's turning 16, at which point he will be fair game for anyone in that rival family to murder.
Oh my god.
So the rival family or the families have like an agreement that you have to like be at the age of consent in Kentucky before you can be murdered by the other family.
We will get to it because traditionally, yes, you have to be 16
To be killed.
to be killed. To inherit the burden of the feud.
No.
But not everyone respects that.
We have the draft.
Oh my word.
So he would literally pay with his life for his father's crime from when he was in kindergarten.
Oh.
In another case, a family lost a father and 2 uncles to an ongoing blood feud. And, like, people couldn't even fucking remember what had happened then.
God.
Then the son, whose name is Basmir, I can't pronounce the last name, had to be pulled out of school in 5th grade because it was no longer safe for him to leave his house. Ever.
Jesus.
I mean,
We get it. I know. I felt a connection.
yeah, that's terrifying.
Call me a sack.
Yeah.
'Cause I get
so
it.
now, like 9 years later, because from 5th grade till now, he's 19. Quote, the 19-year-old spends most of his day laying on a bed that is too small for his more than 6-foot frame. It is, his mother Philae says, like being dead once again.
Oh.
He can't leave. He can't step outside his front door.
Or he'll be murdered.
Yep.
And people are just watching their house around the
Yeah.
clock.
It's a small village. You know if somebody leaves the house.
Oh, my
Okay, well,
Lord. Okay.
That puts things into perspective.
His younger sister, I don't know, Drenica, I don't know, also attended school until, quote, one day when she was in 5th grade, a car sped up behind her and offered her money to get in. Fearing that it was part of an attempt to kill her, she too retreated inside and has just been living
good girl,
indoors.
because at 5th grade, I would have been getting in that car. Like,
How
you're giving
much
me
candy?
money that I can then exchange for Lisa Frank paraphernalia? Sign me
Paraphernalia.
up.
You just want pictures of my feet?
I'm in.
Great.
Hello.
My feet have been freeloading for too long.
Yeah.
I'm
pull
starting
your
a
weight.
fans only account for my feet. I swear
It's
to God.
OnlyFans, and
I have-
yes, you are.
Nothing to lose. Nothing.
Except your dignity, which has been gone for many,
Nothing.
many years.
Again, I have nothing to lose.
And I just want to clarify that I am not saying that it is not dignified to have an OnlyFans account, because
Yeah.
it absolutely is. I am commenting directly on Lucy, not the general public.
No. Everybody, look,
Let me make that clear.
we are clowns for money.
Yeah.
That's our job. No
I'll
better.
do almost anything.
I'm mostly jealous that my feet are so hideous that
Yeah.
no one would dare approach me asking for them.
Mine would be like a sub fetish. People who wanted pictures of ugly feet.
You like troll feet?
You like that toe hair, baby?
How do you feel about ingrown toenails? 'Cause
My
I got a lot of
ingrowns
them.
are so puffy and red because I haven't been able to get a pedicure, and my toe hair that I normally shave because
Yeah.
I usually care about anything
No.
it's Rapunzel length. I basically can wrap it around my foot and it's a sock.
You got a callus kink, baby?
Oh,
So,
yeah.
I
How do you
did-
like one planter's wart that won't go away?
That thing is stubborn, girl.
Yeah,
I
it's been
feel
a
for
year.
you.
I had one of those for honestly 8 years of my life, and one day it just went away. I
I
tried
haven't
everything.
had a wart on my feet since I was really little, but it's not fun. It's not fun.
Yeah.
It's not fun or cute.
Now I just got ingrowns. I have a big toe that's trying to escape the rest of my feet. There's a huge gap between my big toe and my ring toe.
We
a
can
lot
all be
happening.
glad that we don't have what my mother's condition is.
Bunions.
She has a bunion. She has 2 bunions.
You could land a spaceship on that bunion.
Well, she has one primary bunion. It is on both feet, but she names the big one Paul for Paul
Yeah.
Bunyan.
Paul Bunyan. Yep.
And babe.
But she has to purchase her shoes like with
Yeah.
intention.
Oh, yeah.
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 She needs surgery.
All right. Back to these blood feuds.
I like
So-
Paul.
Another man, Mili Zephi, inherited a blood feud from his father 20 years ago. And he has been forced to stay inside his home, basically imprisoned ever since. 20
Wow.
years.
Yeah.
His 3 brothers are in actual prison. I don't know all the details. So Zeffie's wife has to work 2 jobs in order to support all 3 families.
That
Because she's
poor
the only
sack.
one that can, like, that poor sack.
Hey,
That
she can
sack
carry
is
a
working
lot.
overtime.
Hopefully she's double bagged. You know what I mean?
It's just like women. Okay, hi, women in this society. You're kind of like second-class citizens, and we're only going to give you rights that allow us to profit in some way, shape,
Yeah.
or form. And then
From
your
your
men
labor.
are going to go off and fucking kill each other for centuries-long blood feuds that they no longer have anything to do with. But you're going to be left here just holding it down.
Yep.
For
Ever.
infinity.
Decades.
Cool.
Quote, her husband is in hiding, allowed out for only an hour every now and again as a result of an agreement with the injured party that grants him temporary freedom.
So it's like a fucking prison setup.
And even if he did have the freedom to move about, nobody would hire a man with the Gyakmaria sentence hanging over him.
Yeah, they don't want to fucking get in the crossfire of that shit.
You don't want a worker on your farm murdered on your land and you have
I'm
to deal
sorry.
with it.
I'm an equal opportunity employer, but I also kind of don't want to get involved in your blood feud.
Right. Literally, yeah. Yeah.
Just saying.
Tick the box. It's like, ban the box. Are you
Yeah.
involved in a blood feud?
I will gladly grant you a solid 8+ months of maternity leave, but blood feuds are where I draw
Are
the
out.
line. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So even that tenuous piece that this one guy has, which also is kind of rare that he's even allowed out ever. Ooh, very pretty. That had to be negotiated by a mediator who appealed to a council of elders in order to intervene in this case.
That mediator is brave.
The mediator, Nick Zeffie, has firsthand experience with blood feuds because 60 years before, he too inherited a debt from his father and was in hiding for a decade until that was resolved.
This
What's
is
with all these
wild.
Dads just fucking it up for their sons.
Men. Yes, all men.
What are men?
So as long as
are men?
as long as the blood debt remains unresolved, these people are not safe.
No.
Quote, the wound is still bleeding for the other family. This is a quote from Zeffie. My
Right.
children know they have to keep an eye out when walking around in the streets.
Oh my God.
Can you imagine growing up with that hanging over your head? Like, not only are you worried about your father's safety at all times, but then your own safety.
Right.
You have
And
a
it's just-
bounty.
Yeah.
Right,
It's a
and it's just
bounty.
a ticking time bomb as to when that bomb can go off.
Yeah.
So you might wonder how a system like this could endure for so long. Wouldn't, quote, demanding an eye for an eye result in an endless spiral of grief?
I mean, yeah.
But originally, the Canon or Canon, I don't know how you're supposed to say it, had a mechanism to prevent endless escalation. So originally, a council of elders provided mediation between the parties, and they could also grant something called besa, which was the promise of safety in some cases. So the elders would meet, hear the case, and literally decide on the case and say, like, yes, this is a blood feud and this family has a right to draw blood.
And the elders were not associated or affiliated with any
Right.
kind of political position or gubernatorial position or
Yeah, 'cause
police
this is, like,
position. It was just
government.
communities
This is just communities. This
that
is
went
villages.
to the elders. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
This
okay.
is way, way fucking back.
Right. Okay.
And they probably had something where, like, involved parties couldn't be on the council, I would
Right.
imagine.
I mean, this is horrifying, but it's also really fascinating.
You're right. Right? I know.
Yeah.
But so that's how it was supposed to work originally, which kind of makes some sense. So they could be the ones where they would say, like, okay, family A wronged family B. Family
Yep.
B has the right to draw blood.
Yep.
When family B draws blood,
It's over.
it's done.
Okay.
But
It's essentially a
crucially-
sentencing from a court of
Right.
elders. Yeah.
Right. But crucially, a lot of this traditional enforcement of canon law, so like the village elders, the societal norms, all of that has been eroded and deteriorated over time because all of this was hush-hush under communism. It wasn't supposed to be happening. Mm-hmm. So they weren't able to really meet in the village hall and make a ruling and whatever. It all had to be quiet and under the table.
Oh, to the detriment of probably everybody.
So then it just kind of stopped. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't happen. It's not guaranteed that you're going to have a council of elders ruling.
Right.
So then all of the norms around this have started to deteriorate, and now it's become basically a free-for-all.
Dang.
Got it.
So theoretically, under original canon law, women and children are off limits when it comes to blood feuds. And I believe the age of adulthood is considered 16.
Woof. All right.
But again, all this shit has been eroded. Elders aren't weighing in and mediating. So now
and you get to a point where it's no one can make it to become elders because all these families are fucking murdering each other.
Yeah. But also it's just kind of what are you going to do to stop someone if they go after a younger kid? So in one case, a man he failed, but he attempted to a rival family's 3-year-old son.
Oh my God. And that is that is a deeply sick kind of revenge because that child does not know what the fuck is going on between you.
No.
So an innocent party has now been snuffed out.
But even a 16-year-old, anyone.
No. Yeah, a 16-year-old who's beholden to his father's quote-unquote wrongdoings.
None of it is okay.
None of it's right, but the fact that this kind of community village council was just disbanded, at least there was some sort of oversight to be you know what, that's fucked. Don't do that.
You can't do that.
That's gone.
But I just think that in general, this is a really good reminder of why we do, as much as we criticize the legal system in the U.S., which is deeply flawed, this is why there has to be some sort of justice system.
Well, yeah, nobody's arguing that we don't need a justice system.
No, I know that, but I'm just saying, this is why vigilante justice, doesn't work. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, according to the country's modern penal code, blood feuds or personal vendettas are categorized rightly as premeditated murder.
Right. It's murder it's a murderous agenda that's passed down through generations.
Right. And to actually fulfill it, it's definitely planned.
1,000%.
For sure he's trying to kill specific people. If that's not premeditated,
then what is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, quote, this parallel system of justice still persists. So the canon thing still persists. And what's more, families, especially in rural communities where law enforcement is weak, even prefer sometimes the canon way versus the, legal system way.
Got it.
So, quote, this is from the public prosecutor in the main town in the more rural region. Quote, families feel entitled to take vengeance. We've seen cases where the relations of the victim have given testimony clearing the accused so that they can settle the score themselves because they don't want the person to go to actual prison because they want to kill them themselves. So they're nope, innocent. He didn't do anything. I'm good.
Yeah. Ugh.
Wild, right?
So that they will stay on the streets in order to finish.
Because if they're put away, if they're put away, then the cycle
it's harder
can't.
to get to.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And it also doesn't help that the country is basically awash with guns, and we can't get into it, but apparently in 1997 there was an uprising and almost a civil war, and a bunch of army arms caches were raided.
Right.
And so they're just guns everywhere.
Military guns.
America.
Yeah. And there are like bunkers throughout the country. I'll probably do a drunk dive about Albania. It's so fucking amazing.
Of course you will.
Interesting. So
You are up next.
the practice of blood feuds is probably way more pronounced than you might even guess. So at first I was like, okay, this is fascinating, but like, is this super rare or what? But actually it's not rare. So in 2006, an NGO conducted a study and found 120 cases of children and young adults facing down blood feud threats just in and around this one town.
Oh, no.
Ew.
And cases dipped for a little while after the 1990s, so like after the fall of the Soviet Union and like westernization and, you know, trying to join the EU and everything. But they appear to be on the rise over the last decade, especially because a lot of the young people who inherit the blood feuds
Yeah.
try to get the fuck out because they can't leave their house. Like, what kind of life is that? They can't go to school.
Terrible.
A lot of them are illiterate because they literally cannot go to school.
Yeah.
So they try to leave the country. And as asylum seekers, a lot of them are denied asylum abroad because it's not really considered like a category.
Right.
Because it's just their family.
Yeah.
Right.
And there is a legal code, so like technically the law will intervene and protect them, but like it doesn't really. So a lot of them are denied asylum, so they're sent back.
Ugh.
According to the National Reconciliation Committee in 2010, there were approximately 1,650 families living in isolation, locked up inside their homes in 2010.
Oh my God.
Which that's how many families. So we don't even know
How many people?
how many
That's
people.
just in Albania?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, this is mainly an Albanian thing. I think there's some crossover in Kosovo, but this is mainly an Albanian thing.
I mean,
Whoa.
And there,
easily almost 10,000 people. If you're putting low averages on how many family members,
how many
are
would
on-
be affected?
right?
And in 2010 alone, there were a recorded 95 blood feud related murders.
Ugh.
In 2010.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
it's like
a lot.
real thing.
It's so
Ancient.
barbaric.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's primal. It's gross. Get over it.
Yeah, I'm not one to denounce how cultures other than my own, which is like nothing because I'm white.
but
I'm
this
fucking
is,
Dutch
like,
and French.
This
operate.
is murder.
But yeah, this feels
This is wild.
bad.
Bad.
I don't
Yeah.
I don't like it. And that's all I'm gonna say about that.
Yeah. So that's my case. It's not one case, but it's just kind of a phenomenon that
Very
I
liked
think is
it.
fascinating.
I did not know that such a culture existed.
No.
I mean, really anywhere?
But in Europe,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is wild.
just across the water from Italy.
Not far. Great. Well,
But how far from Peniston?
far.
Far east. East of Peniston.
Well done.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Okay, my case. So my case is definitely more along the lines of like the shallow dives that Lucy took. So I'm going to talk about the Pleasant Valley War, also known as the Tewksbury-Graham Feud.
Yes. Oh my God, I love graham crackers.
Me too, but that is not the empire that we
I
are
have some
referring
here. I can go get some.
to. I do too.
That won't
Anyway.
benefit me, so don't
This
bother.
feud took place in Pleasant Valley, Arizona, and spanned 10 fucking years from 1882 to 1892.
Did it start on election day?
I don't believe so, but also probably. This feud began, as many others do, over industry and sheep. I have to burp. There we go. So the Grahams were white cattle ranchers who settled, aka colonized, in Pleasant Valley. And the Tewksburys were a mixed-race white and native family who ranched cattle and sheep, so half colonized, possibly forced.
Sheep are so cute.
They are really cute. The feud was centralized in Pleasant Valley, but violence from this feud also branched into surrounding Navajo and Apache communities. The conflict began over property lines and water and grazing rights, and I am drunk. Bear with me. My language skills have gone. The neighboring families actually started out as friends. Wikipedia gives a great, quick and dirty, concise rundown of how the situation with the two families started to change, so I'm just going to quote it. Quote, the Grahams were new ranchers who came to the lush ranges of Arizona after being...
The Grahams were crackers.
Were crackers. Lush crackers. Of Arizona, after being invited by Ed Tewksbury. Tom Graham and John D. Tewksbury started out as friends, but things changed when a big cattleman named James Stinson came into Pleasant Valley. His large herd quickly started to occupy many areas of grazable land, dominating the ranches built by the two families. Things escalated when Stinson accused members of both families of rustling cattle from his ranch, which we know from previous episodes means stealing cattle.
Yeah.
Accusations soon turned into warrants, and while both families were present in the Tewksbury house, cowboys from Stinson's outfit, led by Jong-Il, came up to arrest the Tewksburys. Tempers flared, and the Tewksburys refused to be arrested.
I didn't know you could just refuse.
Apparently in the 1800s, you could. Both Gilliland and Ed Tewksbury drew their guns and fired at each other, which resulted in the wounding of John and Alicia Gilliland. In the courthouse, John Graham testified that Gilliland drew first, and that Alicia was just an innocent bystander who he and the Tewksburys tried to save afterward. End quote.
Okay.
So, these two family ranches are living side by side in harmony when a big rancher comes in and starts fucking things up. The two families have a common enemy, and their bond is tighter than ever at this point, until one of the families turns. The Grahams.
The Graham crackers.
Who had become increasingly frustrated with Stinson taking over everything and the sheep on the Tewksbury Ranch, grazing the shit out of everything and leaving little left over for cattle. They decided to strike a deal with the Stinson faction, who offered to pay the Grahams $50 per cow, which in the 1800s was no small peanuts.
Kind of still a lot of money. Probably not a lot of money for a cow, but a lot of money.
Cows are expensive.
Correct. The Stinsons also promised the Grahams that they would not serve any jail time if they testified against the Tewksburys in regards to the shooting of John and Alicia Gilliland. So, wanting the money and the get-out-of-jail-free pass, they took the deal from their rival and solidified the decade of bloody hatred between themselves and the Tewksburys.
Don't go snitching. Just because you don't like somebody's sheep.
Yep.
Stitches get stitches.
They get sheep stitches. So, to add salt to the betrayal wound, the Grahams also filed bogus charges against the Tewksburys, claiming they had captured and rebranded cattle that belonged to the Stinson Ranch. These charges were eventually thrown out because of lack of evidence. But on the journey to and from the required court appearance, family elder Frank Tewksbury got fucking pneumonia and died.
Classic.
Obviously, they blamed the Grahams for the false charges that forced them to travel to appear in court in a neighboring city.
No.
And neighboring back in those days was like a day-long wagon train situation. Right. So it wasn't like popping over to St. Paul, which might also give you pneumonia unintentionally. So just don't go over there.
Don't go
but
anywhere.
But also, come on. Don't blame them.
It's 100%
Yeah.
the Graham's fault that Frank got pneumonia, because if he hadn't gone on this journey, he wouldn't have fucking gotten it. It was for false charges.
Sure, that's
But
a bit
still.
of a stretch.
I mean,
Can he get
I'm not on
pneumonia after
either
one
family
day?
side. I'm not on either family side here. They're both the
You're
worst.
a
Sounds like a-
Tewksbury plant.
I mean,
Sounds
I
like a
sheep.
bitch
Or Graham.
complaint to me.
I mean, it was a bitch complaint to file false charges against a family out of revenge in the first place.
That's
Yeah,
true. That would
you're
just
right.
waste their time.
They're all
So,
bitches.
It
They all
wasted their
get
time
stitches.
and got someone sick to the point where they fucking died because it was the 1800s.
They'll be fine.
Back to the branding and the rebranding. This
Yes.
is something I've always wondered about because, like, if your brand is the size of a dime, then a rival's brand could be the size of a quarter.
Right,
And you
and-
could just...
In this situation, apparently the brand that they were rebranding was like one letter. It was like a T or something. So it was
Yeah.
really easy to manipulate.
Yeah.
So it's not
So,
like
like, do
getting a
better.
tattoo cover up.
No.
It's not nearly that complicated. Plus,
You could fuck with a brand. If your brand's not complicated enough to like be secure,
yeah.
you
well,
can
all
probably
it
fuck
is
with it.
burning the skin in a...
Right,
in a
burning off the
stamp.
hair. Yeah.
So it
So-
can't be nearly as accurate as a tattoo cover up.
No.
It also, you're working with a cow. So, like,
Correct.
I guess just adding a second letter or like a line to something
Yep.
would be
That's
the
essentially
simplest.
what was done here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
So retaliation obviously needed to happen now because Elder Frank Tewksbury is dead. So the Tewksburys and their cattle/sheep rancher supporters paid a visit to the Stinson Ranch under the guise of planning a rodeo.
Oh, such a good guys.
Yep. Their approach was not well received and ended in gunfire that injured men on both sides, but didn't kill anyone, including a dude who was straight up shot in the throat.
And survive.
Yep. Guns in the 1800s.
Okay.
Not super
If
precise
I
or
was
lethal.
shot in the throat in the 1800s, please just fucking end it.
End it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that guy died of pneumonia after a day, and some other dude gets shot in the throat and
lives.
survives.
Yep.
What a
I mean,
crapshoot.
The 1800s
crock.
were not great. So
No.
they gave up on the shootout and settled the rest of this particular encounter in court. Shortly after this shootout on his property, Stinson was like, fuck this shit, and sold off his cattle and left Arizona. But this obviously was not the end of the feud for the Grahams and the Tewksburys. In fact, this dissolution of the Stinson Ranch left the Grahams in a shit situation because they had sold most of their cattle, as we can recall from what I said a few moments ago, to the Stinsons.
Yes, as we can all recall.
Yes. And we're getting work and legal protection through this deal that is now just gone. Stay with
just
me here.
spit out her bird.
Stay with me.
Oh my god.
We're close. Then, then things really escalated in 1885 when the Tewksburys brought in more sheep and supported local sheep ranching
more.
in the area. As I mentioned before, which we can recall, the cowboys out there hated this because the sheep ate too much of the grazing fields and left little over for the cattle and horses that were the preferred industry.
Honestly,
So-
the cattle are the ones getting the shit end of the stick.
When the Tewksburys not only ranched their own sheep, but started leasing sheep from other ranchers in the north, the Dag brothers, dagnabbit, thus supporting their industry and increasing the local sheep population. The Grahams clapped the fuck back and got local support. And when I mean local support, I mean literal assassinations. The Tewksburys had an incoming order of sheep headed to Pleasant Valley from the north by a Navajo man they'd hired for the delivery, and a member of the Grahams faction robbed and murdered the poor bastard who was hired to transport the sheep before they could make it to
Navajo
Pleasant
man?
Valley.
The innocent
Yes.
Navajo man?
A
Correct.
memory of their faction did this?
A member of their faction. The assassin then killed or ran off any remaining sheep. According to
Waste.
legendsofamerica.com, quote, this event began the bloody battle that would be responsible for 19 known deaths and as many as 30. On August 17th, 1887, William Graham was gunned down at his home, but lived long enough to identify Ed Tewksbury as the shooter.
Oh my God.
A jury
Calm
found
down.
Tewksbury guilty, and Sheriff Mulvannon set out to arrest the man. But they had fled into the hills. In September of 1887, the Graham faction surrounded one of the Tewksbury cabins and shot down John Tewksbury and William Jacobs as they started out for horses. Though the two were dead, the Grahams continued firing at the cabin for hours, only stopping when Mrs. Tewksbury finally came out of the cabin with a shovel to bury the dead men.
Dead man.
A few days
She
later,
just was like, enough, and came out with a shovel.
When the sack emerged,
I'm gonna start my cleanup now.
yeah, I'm
Y'all
gonna be here all
finish
fucking
whatever you need to do.
Yeah, I want to get a good night's sleep, so if
Yeah.
y'all could just stop shooting, I'll bury the dead now.
Yeah,
I'll get a
and
head
then-
start on, I'll get a jump start.
Then I'm going to bed.
I literally do this on Thanksgiving when we host because I
Yep.
don't have a dishwasher. I will leave the dinner table early just to get a head start.
Yeah. So, a few days later, a man named Andy Blevins, a member of the Graham faction, was overheard in Arizona bragging that he had killed both of the Tewksbury men. Holbrook Sheriff Commodore Perry Owens got wind of the confession and, having a warrant for Blevins' arrest for the cattle rustling, decided it was a good time to pick up the lawless man.
Why are
end
we all
quote.
devolving into these southern
It's
accents?
Arizona. This fits.
It's Arizona.
Arresting Blevins wasn't exactly a cakewalk. The sheriff arrived during Sunday dinner, and Andy refused
Rude.
to come out. Instead,
Yeah.
Andy's brother-in-law came to the front door and opened fire on the sheriff, who, along with his backup, returned fire, hitting Andy and his brother-in-law. The continued gunfight left Andy dead, as well as his 15-year-old son, Sam.
Oh, Sam.
And a family friend by the name of Mose Roberts Shroot. The sheriff
Wrong
made
place,
it
wrong
out
time.
completely untouched, which secured him in the community as a total legend.
Oh, so he just came up and shot up a family at Sunday dinner and came out of it with a good rep?
They shot back a bunch. He survived, and they were like, "This police officer deserves a medal." So nothing has changed.
Nothing has changed.
Again, from Legends of America.
Legends
Quote,
of the Fall.
Later that month, Sheriff Mulvernon of Prescott pursued brothers John and Tom Graham and Charles Blevins to Young, Arizona, which was very close by. Leading a posse sprinkled with Tewksbury sympathizers, they caught up with the trio on September 22nd.
Sprinkled.
As the three men approached Perkins' restaurant and store.
Love Perkins.
Not restaurant, just
Monster
store.
muffins.
So
Tremendous
much better
12.
than Denny's.
That is Denny's.
Denny's.
Mulverin demanded their surrender, but instead a shootout ensued.
Over that Grand Slam breakfast platter.
Yep. When the dust cleared, John Graham and Charles
more
Blevins lay dead. I know, I'm drunk. I don't know. Tom Graham was able to escape.
We're known for our really consistent and spot-on accents.
Yeah,
So.
I am a thespian,
Okay,
very
hold
well
up the
trained.
brand, all right?
Trained in the craft.
I'm aware that I was swinging from Virginia clear
Yep.
on down to East Texas.
Over the years, several lynchings and unsolved murders of members of both factions took place, often committed by masked men. The feud finally came to an end in 1892. I wrote 1982, but that's not right.
Wow, what an enduring feud.
It was
And yet
1892.
only 15 people
People
died.
died. Well, up to 30.
Both families attended
1892.
Oprah Winfrey's
Freeze.
talk show.
And
Correct.
Family Feud.
Anyway, by which point the Grahams and Tewksburys had been involved in so many bloody shootouts with each other and the police that only one person remained in each family. Tom Graham and Ed Tewksbury.
And they got married and blended their families.
You wish. Tom fled to the Salt River Valley, leaving his ranch and all the blood behind. He married and started a new life with his new wife. But eventually, he was gunned down by assassins. He claimed with his dying breath that they were sent by Ed Tewksbury.
Sounds like it. Sounds like old Ed got the last word.
Yeah, guess what? They 100% were. Ed was charged and tried for the hired murder of Tom Graham, but ended up getting off on a technical error that led to a mistrial.
Nice.
Tom's widow was so bereft that she tried to take justice into her own hands, pulling a pistol with the intention of shooting Ed dead
Finally, a
right
lady
there in
gets
court.
involved in one of these fucking feuds.
Who's not just cleaning up like a fucking sack.
Well,
Finally, his sack
well,
bereft.
Comes in handy.
well.
Okay.
Unfortunately, Tom's widow was a woman, so she caught the pistol on the full skirt of her dress and didn't successfully get a shot in before she was removed from the courtroom.
I feel for her, though,
Yeah.
because it's hard out there. Women's
It's so
clothing.
hard. Oh,
Are you
got
doing a
shots.
shot?
Okay, I'm right behind you. Before his death in 1902,
My topless husband burst in and brought me
I
a
saw
shot.
it. Ed confessed to his stepmother that he did have Tom Graham killed.
Well, color me shocked.
I know. Moral of the story, I guess don't have too many sheep where cattle and horses are ranched.
Mm-hmm.
Don't sell out your buddies to the big new rancher in town. And don't wear a big full skirt when trying to avenge your late husband.
Yo, widower.
I feel that.
And that is
Yeah.
my case.
Well done.
I'm into it. And this is how much progress I got on my coloring sheet of Luann de Lesseps in a bush.
Incredible. Countess
Oh, right.
Luann. I think she got her countessness revoked, actually.
I think she did too.
Yeah, her
no.
behavior
Husbands
is
ago.
disturbing.
Oh, I don't know anything about her.
Corey
really.
just texted me, "Don't divorce me for that." Our Patreon
Don't spread the
exclusive
rumor
peeps,
further.
Our Patreon exclusive peeps are going to get the video of my topless husband sneaking in
Yep.
to deliver a shot of vodka.
It's worth
and,
$1 a month to get access to Lucy's topless
absolutely.
husband.
PSA, we're not getting a divorce. Let it go.
It was a joke.
Yep.
It was a joke.
Special thanks this week to our very special fan picker, Gary White.
Yes.
Very well
Oh,
done,
yeah.
Gary. And
Very well done.
I
Very
Gary
well.
you, I Gary you, I Gary you. And if you want to see our video episodes, they used to be on Facebook. Now they're all on Patreon.
And to hear the rest of the special thanks shout outs, also head over to Patreon.
A lot of shit on
Oh,
Patreon.
yeah.
Just go.
We're
Just join.
filling it with content, so thank you for your patience.
Y'all.
Love
and
you.
we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.